Welcome back to a new video, and this time I think I want to talk more about life itself. And if that disturbs your experience or feels out of place, I invite you to mute me and just watch if you're interested in the woodworking and the technique itself. I totally get it. But I've been thinking a lot about how woodworking connects with life, and I feel like sharing that part too. I know you're probably not here for philosophy, but that's part of who I am. And it naturally seeps into what I do. I think that most of the time when you're working a job, there's a mechanical feeling to it. You go through the motions, you get the reward, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's reputation, or a wink from the boss. Sometimes it's something more abstract like recognition or purpose. But what makes this experience so interesting for me, and why I encourage people to work with their hands, is that in a way, we get to choose those moments. And yes, I don't want you to be reactive, because life is hard and sometimes we're trapped in the routine of it, but in my case, you could say I selected my circumstances. And sure, there's truth to that, but there were a lot of decisions that led me here as well. Over time, I've realized that I'd rather do simple things that I care about. Because, and I don't mean this in a dark way, nothing really matters in an ultimate sense. We're all gonna change form, we'll become something else, and in that process, the state we're in right now allows us to act in ways that we won't always be able to. So while we're here, in this form, in this moment, what we do does actually matter. At least for me, and this might change maybe in 1 year or in 6 months, who knows. And also, it's not because it lasts forever, but because it expresses who we are right now. And I'm not trying to preach any absolute truth. As I've said, of course truth is personal and it shifts. But there's one thing that I think doesn't truly shift, because it can be observed all the time, and it's eventually we all disappear in the form we know that we are right now. And for me, that's a reminder. What I do now has consequences. At some point in my life, and this probably goes back to childhood, I felt trapped in my own ambition. It was like a weight I didn't want, but still woke up every day chasing it. And eventually that weight turned into confusion, existential dizziness. Some people might call it depression, etc., etc., And that's when woodworking began to show up for me. And it's not like I want to emphasize woodworking itself, but manual labor, I would say. Maybe something from childhood was being pulled, something about touching wood, feeling texture, brought me back to myself. And more than the feeling, it brought me appreciation for time. I wasn't thinking ahead anymore. I was just here, smelling the wood, feeling it, thinking about what to do, engineering thoughts and how do you do this, etc. Feeling someone useful within myself. And this might sound simple, but it didn't feel common. There's something beautiful about sharing your craft to your time. I believe most people enjoy seeing the care someone else puts in what they do. And if you can put aside the alienation that work often brings and work with intention, then even the smallest details start to matter. Not just in a functional way, but in a spiritual one. There's a certain pride that comes with that. A self-respect, let's call it. And there's a saying, and I'm not religious, but it goes, God is watching. And to me, that can mean whatever your God is. Maybe it's just that deeper part of yourself, the one that sees everything you do, even when no one else does. That thought shows up for me often when I'm making things. They matter, you see? I'm using my hands, and it has become a way to remember that I can take control over my life and all these little details. Maybe not the full picture, but there's these things that I can actually fully control. And having time, some people might call it a luxury, but time is also relentless, you know. When you have a lot of it, you are suddenly face to face with this huge, like, abyss of possibility. And that can be overwhelming. And many can relate to this because most freelancers choose to be freelancers, and they are often proud of being freelancers because they can control their time, but they have a massive weight to hold on their shoulders. And in my case, I choose to simplify things to make more time. But there's also responsibility, you know? It's a strange paradox. Time can be freedom, but it can also be a huge weight. Still, by transforming the matter, the material, I feel like I've taken ownership of my time as much as possible. There are still moments when nothing makes sense, when too many doors open at once and you lose direction, but in the end, all of it leaves something behind. A tangible result, something I can share. Some people might call my situation, as I said before, like luxurious. I'd rather call it like responsibility within the luxury. Because now, you can feel also my journey in the woodworking realm. You can touch it, you can smell it. You might not know the whole story, but something in the grain tells you someone was here. And that's why building a house isn't just about having a shelter, it's about the survival of the soul. Because if nothing really matters, then I get to decide what does. And I've decided this matters. Because it can be shared, because it's human, and because through the hands and the struggle of others, we remember we're not alone. I hope you enjoy this little philosophical moment of mine, and I might delete this video, but if you did, you can stick around for the next stuff, and if you didn't, tell me why, or don't, you know. I hope I'll see you soon, and if I don't, good luck. If you're still around, I am completing now the joint, and these are some of the thoughts I go when I'm building and trying to achieve my dream build in a way. So I'll let you be and show you some of the assembly and the results and a little preview or sneak peek into what's coming next. Thanks for watching.
Reste par là, toi, sur l'échafaudage, si t'es bien pas fait, moi je suis pas fait là. J'ai regardé tous les autres. Ça déverse simplement. Elle déverse comme ça.